Welcome back to Bible Story God. Today we invite you to journey deep into 7 incredible miracles from the Bible. These aren't just historical events. They are living lessons filled with power and truth that can change our lives today. Through these stories, God reminds us of His compassion, His power, and His desire to work in and through us. So take a deep breath, open your heart, and let's explore these miracles with fresh eyes, drawing close, practical, and personal lessons for our everyday lives. Miracle number 1. Jesus heals the blind man. John 9:1-7. Picture yourself in complete darkness, never having seen light. The blind man in John 9 lived like this his entire life. Every day he sat as others walked by, hearing footsteps but never seeing faces. Many judged him, assuming his blindness was punishment. But Jesus didn't see punishment. He saw purpose. With love and compassion, Jesus used mud and spit, simple earthly things, to create a miracle. The man obeyed Jesus' instruction to wash in the pool of Siloam, and in doing so, found vision for the first time. But imagine the deeper layer. This man's entire identity had been shaped by limitation and exclusion. He had been overlooked, dismissed, and pitied. Yet in one encounter with Jesus, his entire life was rewritten. It was not only his eyes that were opened, but his heart that found dignity and hope. Jesus didn't just heal him physically, He restored his humanity. The takeaway? God uses the ordinary for the extraordinary. His instructions might seem strange or inconvenient, but obedience opens the door to miracles. If you're walking through your own darkness today, perhaps feeling unseen, misunderstood, or hopeless, remember, God sees you, He values you, He has purpose for you, and He can illuminate even the blackest night. Trust His word, take that step of obedience, and watch what He can do. Miracle number 2, the woman with the issue of blood. Mark 5:25-34. 12 years of pain, rejection, and isolation. She was labeled unclean, unworthy, unseen. She had exhausted every option, spending all she had on doctors who offered no solution. Her heart was weary, her spirit crushed. But one day hope stirred. Despite fear and weakness, she pushed through the crowd, stretched out her hand, and touched Jesus' cloak. Immediately, she felt healing course through her body. But Jesus did more than heal her physically. He restored her emotionally and spiritually, calling her daughter. Imagine the courage it took to reach out. Surrounded by people who might scorn or shame her, she chose faith over fear. And Jesus stopped, not to reprimand but to affirm her value. He looked into her eyes and publicly acknowledged her faith, restoring her place in the community and in her own heart. Our lesson? Even in silence, even when the world labels us broken, God calls us beloved. Your faith, even if trembling and small, matters. Reach out. In the quiet desperation of your heart, dare to touch Jesus and watch Him respond. He sees you, He knows your pain, and He desires to heal not just your body, but your heart and soul as well. Miracle number 3, the raising of Lazarus. John 11:1-44. Mary and Martha's brother was gone. Grief filled their home, and questions clouded their minds. But Jesus arrived not with regret, but with purpose. He wept with them, feeling their pain before calling Lazarus from the tomb. Life returned where death reigned. Imagine standing at that tomb, the stench of death heavy in the air, with tears streaming down your face. Hope seems lost and questions weigh on your heart. Why didn't Jesus come sooner? But then, His voice breaks through the silence, calling life out of death. Lazarus emerges, alive and whole. The message? God's delays are not denials. Even when situations seem beyond hope, He is still writing the story. He feels our sorrow, walks with us in our pain, and brings resurrection where we see only endings. Don't give up. What looks dead to us can be resurrected by His power. Trust that even in the waiting, God is preparing a miracle that will exceed your expectations and reveal His glory. Now imagine standing there as Lazarus walks out, grave clothes still clinging to him, a symbol of death being replaced with life. The gathered crowd gasps and then erupts in praise, their faith renewed by witnessing the impossible. Mary and Martha embraced their brother, tears now turned to joy. Jesus not only answered their prayers, but He also strengthened their trust in His timing and love. The power of resurrection is more than bringing the dead to life. It's about restoring hope where none remains. The story of Lazarus teaches us to wait on God, trust His heart, and believe that He is always working behind the scenes, crafting miracles that will change lives forever. Miracle number 4, the healing of the paralyzed man. Luke 5:17-26. A paralyzed man had friends who believed for him when he couldn't believe for himself. They broke barriers, literally tearing open a roof, to place him before Jesus. Moved by their faith, Jesus forgave and healed him. But imagine the scene in more detail. Crowded streets, a packed house, and 4 determined friends carrying their companion on a stretcher. They tried the door and windows, but couldn't get through. Instead of giving up, they climbed the roof, removing tiles and carefully lowering their friend down. Jesus saw not just the man's need, but the faith of those who carried him. What's the takeaway? Surround yourself with faith-filled people and be that person for others. Sometimes your faith can be the lifeline someone else needs. This story teaches us about persistence, community, and intercession. There will be times when you are the one carried and other times when you are called to carry someone else. Either way, faith in action breaks through barriers, reaches Jesus, and invites his power to heal and restore. When we love and believe on behalf of others, miracles happen. Now picture the paralyzed man standing up, rolling up his mat, and walking out in full view of everyone. The crowd is amazed and praise fills the room. The healed man's life is forever changed. Not just by Jesus' power, but by the love and determination of friends who refuse to give up. This story challenges us to ask, who in our lives needs to be carried? Whose burden can we help lift today? It also reminds us that when we feel powerless, God places people around us to help carry us to his presence. In faith and unity, miracles unfold. Miracle number 5, the feeding of the 5,000, John 6:1-14. A boy's humble offering became a feast for thousands. Jesus took what little he had, blessed it, and multiplied it beyond imagination. The lesson? Your little is never too small in God's hands. Offer your gifts, your talents, and your heart. God will use them in ways far beyond what you can see. Now imagine the scene in greater detail. A massive crowd gathered, hungry and restless. The disciples were overwhelmed, focused on scarcity. But one small boy offered what he had, just 5 loaves and 2 fish. Jesus took this humble gift, blessed it, broke it, and multiplied it until more than 5,000 people were fed, with baskets of leftovers. This miracle reminds us that God doesn't ask for what we don't have. He asks for what we do have, no matter how small it seems. When we give generously and trustingly, God does the multiplying. Whether it's time, talent, or resources, nothing is insignificant in his hands. The story encourages us to release what's in our hand and watch God transform it into something that blesses others beyond anything we could have imagined. Miracle number 6, the healing at the pool of Bethesda, John 5:1-15. For nearly 4 decades, this man waited for healing, surrounded by hopelessness. But Jesus' question, "Do you want to get well?" changed everything. His healing began with willingness and obedience. Now picture this scene in greater detail. A crowded poolside where the sick and broken lay, each hoping for their turn, yet most losing hope with every passing year. This man had grown accustomed to his suffering, possibly resigned to the idea that healing was for others, not him. But Jesus saw him and singled him out. His question wasn't a formality, it was an invitation. "Do you want to get well?" challenged the man to confront his hopelessness and choose faith. Jesus' words cut through decades of despair. In that moment, obedience became the bridge to healing. The man picked up his mat and walked for the first time in 38 years. Our lesson? Sometimes we become comfortable in brokenness, but healing begins when we say yes to Jesus and take that first step. Maybe it's a step toward forgiveness, toward letting go of fear, or toward trusting God with what feels impossible. His healing power is available, but he waits for our response. Even after years of waiting, one encounter with Jesus can change everything. He sees you, calls you, and invites you to rise and walk in freedom. Miracle number 7, Jesus calms the storm. Mark 4:35-41. Fear gripped the disciples as waves threatened to swallow them. But with 3 words, peace, be still, Jesus brought calm. Now imagine the chaos on that boat, the roar of thunder, towering waves crashing over the sides, disciples shouting, hearts racing with panic. In their desperation, they wake Jesus, questioning if he even cares. But Jesus stands, calm and steady, and with 3 simple words commands the storm to stop. The wind ceases, the water becomes still, and a hush falls over everyone present. Their fear turns to awe as they realize they are in the presence of someone greater than the storm itself. The takeaway? Life storms are inevitable, but peace is available. In chaos, fix your eyes on Jesus. He is greater than every wave. This miracle teaches us that Jesus is not just present in calm moments. He is with us in the storm, ready to speak peace over our fears. Whatever storm you are facing, anxiety, illness, loss, or uncertainty, know that Jesus stands beside you, unshaken. His peace doesn't depend on circumstances. It comes from His presence. When you call on Him, He answers. And His words have the power to still the wildest seas. Trust Him, even when the storm rages on, for He is greater than any wave and more powerful than any fear. These stories are more than ancient miracles. They are living truths for us today. Which miracle speaks to you the most? Share in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe to Bible Story God, and share this with someone who needs hope. With God, nothing is impossible.